Now, governments, of course, as I was mentioning earlier, have been doing a lot of work. We in Ontario have a domestic violence action plan, which ensures that we have seamless services provided to prevent violence against women and issues around domestic violence. We want to make sure that there are mechanisms by which women can escape an abusive relationship. I think the policy is very much clear. One is that if you are in an abusive relationship, you should flee from that relationship. You should find some refuge, be it family or women's shelters, and report the incident to the police, because only then the police can act, lay criminal charges, investigate the matter, and it's extremely important that that second part also takes place, that is reporting the matter to the police. Of course, we need to put in place policies that would encourage victims of domestic violence to do this, and there are definitely challenges around that. In terms of investments made in that area, I mean, I won't go into too many numbers, but the government is investing more than $208 million to protect women from violence and support victims of abuse, which includes about $87 million violence action plan, which I was referring earlier. This has resulted in an increase of about 369 shelter beds across the province for women and children fleeing abuse. Just in my riding a few months ago, Minister Mayor and I made an announcement for new funding for a women's shelter to ensure that there are more spaces available in the Ottawa area. However, said all that, we have a disconnect in our public policy, and that's what Bill 53 is trying to achieve. And the disconnect is as follows. On one hand, as I stated earlier, we encourage women to report assault, encourage anybody who's victim of domestic violence to take this matter further and report it to the police. But on the other hand, if you are somebody who live in a residential tenancy environment, you are a tenant, we make it difficult for you to do so because you are liable for rent. And Bill 53 tries to provide a mechanism by which a victim of domestic violence could terminate the lease in a manner that protects the interests of the landlord, but also allows for the tenant with least amount of penalty to be able to get out of the lease. I'm mindful of the time, so let me just highlight some of the key features of the legislation. One thing it does is allows for a 28 days, or let's say a month period, to terminate the lease. So a tenant who is a victim of domestic violence can give a sort of a 28-day notice to terminate their lease, which means the landlord gets to keep at least 1 month's rent, which is most likely the last month's rent, which is already paid in deposit. But also have to at least produce one documentary evidence to substantiate that he or she is a victim of domestic violence. And that could be either a restraining order under the criminal code, or a peace bond under the Family Law Act, or a letter from the police stating that an investigation has been commenced. So that will obviously require the woman to approach the police and file a complaint. One of these documents plus a 28-day notice is sufficient to then terminate the lease. That's, in essence, is the scheme that is outlined. Right now, basically what it is that essentially you are liable for the rent owing. If you're on a month-to-month basis, then you have to give a 60-day notice, which could be a huge impediment. If you're on a fixed term, then you are liable for the remainder of the term on that lease, which could be any amount of months, could be 10 months, could be 6 months, could be only 3 months. So that could be a huge impediment. In Residential Tenancies Act today, there is an opportunity for the landlord to work, or the tenant to work with the landlord and mutually agree. And that option is still available. And most of the landlords are good people, and they will allow for that option to be exercised. But we do have some circumstances where that won't happen. And by adopting Bill 53, we're providing a very defined mechanism by which a victim of domestic violence with some documentary evidence can terminate the lease and make sure that the victim is in a safe place. And that is exactly what we want to do. That's exactly what government policy is, that exactly what all the advocates against domestic violence plea, that we ensure that the person is able to escape and report the matter to the police, so that the abuser, the perpetrator, could be investigated, and if they are convicted, then sentenced accordingly. So that's, Mr. Speaker, is pretty much what we're trying to, I'm asking to do. There is a confidentiality clause in this legislation ensuring that landlords don't pass this information to any other future landlord to, again, protect the integrity of the victim. If there is any misleading information knowingly which is being posed, then there is fine provision under the Residential Tenancies Act that will apply in that situation, again, to ensure that there is no willful abuse taking place of this particular bill. Once again, I think this is a relevant issue. It's an important issue to make sure that we protect victims of domestic violence. We ensure that they continue to live in a safe place, not only them, but their dependent children. If a child is at risk, so that they can find a refuge and be at a safe place. And I really ask all members to support this bill. Thank you very much.